Shows that make you laugh. Shows that make you think. Music that moves you. It could only be one place. Universal Broadcasting Network. Tune in at ubnradio.com.
Hey everybody, welcome. Another edition of What's Up with Kobylt and Friends. Thank you for playing Drake for me, Kurt. It's perfect music for what we're about to go into, right? With our correspondent out in Ohio at the Republican convention. I love Drake, and I told him I'm kind of tired of some of the bumper music you keep playing for me, even though we all know I love Adam Levine and Maroon 5. So thanks for that.
I'll do Drake from now on.
You know what you need to do? No, surprise me every week with something different.
Oh, okay.
That'd be really cool. And let's see if I know who it is, because that'd be fun.
Well, do you want me to surprise you with music I like? Because I like pretty obscure music, so. I mean,
let's try it. Let's
okay.
try it. I like obscure, but I'm really into hip hop and stuff. So
I'm more of the techno electronic.
Let's try
so,
it. Just surprise me next time. We'll see if we can sort of get along like that. All right. So we have a really great show today. A little bit of an international flavor. First up, we're going to be talking to John Kobylt from the John and Ken Show, KFI Radio. Hey, John. We know you very well. You've become like a friend of the show, literally and figuratively. How you doing? How are you doing over there?
Well, I had a special in, so.
That's right. Well, you know what? I got the call yesterday because, I was going to go out there to the Republican convention, and I got my credentials from Secret Service, and they called me. I forgot to tell you that. They called me yesterday, and they said, "Where are you?" And I said, "Oh, my gosh, I forgot to let you people know that I can't come, and I'm really sorry. So why don't you go pick it up? Maybe you can just give away my credential to somebody else, or at least bring it home for me."
Well, you're probably on some list now, so.
I know, it figures, right? We're about to leave the country, and I'm probably on some, do not fly list now because I didn't pick up my secret security clearance or something. Anyway, thanks for calling in. So has it been much of a circus over there at the Republican convention?
Well, it certainly wasn't this so far. It's only halfway through. There's been no real violence. There's been no real tension. There hasn't been. There's an enormous number of police here, and they have so many blockades set up, cement highway barriers and these 8-foot-high metal cages, and crossing the street, getting from one side to the other, sometimes really difficult. I mean, they've just created a maze. Mm-hmm. So it's impossible for crazy people to drive up in a convoy and cause much mayhem.
Well, it's about time, right? I mean, honestly, they never really managed to plan this stuff right, and there's always one guy who manages to get through, so it sounds like they planned it right.
No, and they've got, on some blocks, there's one particular promenade block that leads right into the main entrance for the security. Yeah. And then you go to the arena. And this promenade, it's a cute, cobblestone brick street.
Oh, listen to you describing it as a cute little cobblestone street. I like that.
Right, and then the restaurants, and they have their outdoor seating, patio seating. And I was just walking down it, and there was, on both sides, a line of law enforcement. On both sides, almost in formation. Mm-hmm. Every 2 inches was another cop and another cop all over this. California Highway Patrol, Indiana State Police. I think there's thousands of police from all over the country. There's 300 CHP officers in California here. We just ran into a few from Orange County. Mm-hmm. So it's they planned this for a couple of years, mm-hmm. and it is. I've never seen anything like this.
Well, let's talk a little bit about the circus that's been going on inside, on stage. Right? You had Ben Carson connecting Hillary Clinton to Lucifer and the KKK. You've got Black Lives Matters throwing urine on church groups. I mean, what's going on about that? What's going on over there?
It was the KKK and Black Lives Matter and the Westboro Baptist Church out of Kansas, and they're the ones that protest gay funerals.
Yeah.
So all three groups came together and they started throwing urine at each other, and the police had to break it up. Mm-hmm. But it was just urine. It
wasn't acid or anything like that.
Heavy weapons.
Yeah, no, I got it. However, right, you had some people, in their religious clothing, if you will, and they were showing up with loaded guns, and that's allowed in Ohio, so they're just sort of allowed to roam around with their weepons freely. The whole thing is just such a strange scene.
It was two guys, and they dressed up in Muslim garb, and
which is fine.
Had a white headdress on, and he had a fully loaded AR-15 semi-automatic weapon across his chest.
Yeah, and
he wanted to prove a point that he's Muslim, he has the right to be here, and he's got the right to have a loaded gun in Ohio because they have an open carry law. You know, as long as you're not concealing your weapon, you can hold it in public.
Right.
And so these two guys were walking around making that shit. There's a lot of people with weapons on them. We saw a guy with some kind of automatic rifle, I guess semi-automatic rifle, strapped to his back just a few minutes ago.
I can't believe that this is okay. I would not feel safe roaming around the streets anywhere if some guy next to me, everybody's got a temper these days, if some guy next to me, especially with road rage in California, has got a gun on him. I just think that's so absurd. I can't believe that this is allowed. And then
ironically,
go ahead.
Some people think, and I don't know if it's true because you can't prove it, that because of the open carry law and because so many people are carrying guns, scared a lot of the crazy people away. That's what the protesters are saying. The reason people haven't shown up, they called in and said, no, we're not showing up if people are walking around with loaded guns.
It scares me. I mean, it really scares the hell out of me. I mean, if you saw those guys and they were right next to you, wouldn't you be a little intimidated?
There was one guy right in front of us. We were walking along the protest square. It's a massive Civil War sculpture.
Yeah.
And we were walking up the stairs, and Ken said, hey, look at that. And we looked up, and there's the guy had some kind of semi-automatic weapon strapped to his back.
Yeah, but I wonder
we're wondering, well, is that real? And I go, well, how are we going to find out for sure?
Just walk the other way, I guess. I mean, okay, so what about Trump Jr. and his daughter, his youngest daughter, Tiffany, and how they were perceived last night? I mean, what were your thoughts? I mean, Donald Jr. I thought was terrific, and I think that his youngest daughter was really terrific as well. I mean, you know, they're put under a microscope. What do you expect from these people, especially the youngest daughter? You know, what are people saying about that? Yeah.
I think she came across as very appealing. She's only 23.
Right.
And very pretty, but she had a presence about herself that I think, you know, a lot of people that I've heard in conversation is they come across as such good, solid people that Trump can't be all bad. How do you have kids that good looking, that polished and articulate,
and 3 wives?
And considering, you know, the chaos going through 2 divorces and all the other stuff he's been involved in publicly, and that, you know, if they're faking it, they're the greatest performers I've seen.
I know. I mean, I couldn't imagine throwing our kids up there. They'd be irritated until the second the cameras rolled, and then, well, I don't know, maybe that's what's going on behind the scenes.
No.
But that's really not what's going on.
Donald Jr. looks like he's ready to run in about 10 years.
I'm sure he will be. I mean, this is a perfect platform for him that he was, thrust upon. But go ahead.
What he did, he articulated the case for his father better than his father has so far.
Well, because I mean, you saw the 60 Minutes interview. I mean, because of, his father will stumble over everyone. That's just his personality. And he comes across so brash, and he is brash. But even in the 60 Minutes interview with his VP pick, he barely even let him get a word in. Leslie Stahl was asking him a question, and then Donald came in and just stumbled right over him because that's his personality. But you're right. I think deep down underneath, he may not be quite as brash as he comes off, right?
Yeah, well, his kids have remarkable self-control,
and poise.
And he has none.
Mm-hmm. And what about his?
I was talking with somebody last night who knows the inner circle,
mm-hmm.
and he said the most intimidating Trump is Ivanka. She's the one that scares you. She's the one you don't want to cross.
Why? Because it's very difficult to sort of get a feel of what she's thinking and what's going on there. I mean, she's very poised. She's very bright.
She calls a lot of the shots, and
mm-hmm.
a very forceful, decisive personality, and is very protective of her father and the family. And when changes have to be made, like when they just recently fired their campaign manager, she's the one who holds the meeting, fires off all the questions, embarrasses the guy, and sends him packing.
Interesting. I believe that. Okay, so right now we've got Hillary and Donald about what, 2.5 points apart in the polls.
Yeah, on average, if you average the last 10 polls.
Mm-hmm. So what do you
Trump's ahead in a
foresee
few
for
of them.
today, and what do you think is going to be going on now? I mean, I think it's come off better than most people expected, right? I would imagine so.
Yeah,
But
yeah. I mean, the CNN and MSNBC can't let go of the Melania Trump moment. They seem to be crazy obsessed, and I haven't run into a single normal person who cares. So it's one of those great disconnects between a media that has to fill time and what the average person. Like, I've been talking to Uber drivers. You know what they care about?
what?
They thought they were going to make a killing on Uber fares, but Uber sent too many drivers into the Cleveland area, and they said it's tough getting rides because there's too many of them.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just interesting when you talk to these like regular Joes. What do they care about? How much money are they making? Because they're working Uber on the side along with their regular jobs, and the Uber money isn't coming in like they thought it would. And that's what they talk about. They don't talk about whether Melania Trump stole a paragraph from Michelle Obama.
I don't know what happened. I don't know if she really wrote it herself. She said that she wrote it herself and she was on with Matt Lauer. I don't know. Or somebody else just sort of grabbed a piece of Michelle Obama's speech. It was remarkably similar, let's face it. Whoever did it but it was stupid, but let's let it go. I agree.
Yeah, no, what happened is Melania had a speechwriter, a young woman, and Melania was giving the speechwriter her thoughts. And Melania had looked at other speeches by Laura Bush or Michelle Obama and said, I like these themes. And the girl wrote down some of the stuff Melania was reading off in order to repackage it, rework it as, possible theme. And the speechwriter put in the speech her verbatim notes without checking to see that she had copied the speech and not just used it as a thematic inspiration. And it was just an honest mistake, that's all.
Yeah, stupid one, though. That woman's probably sent packing already. I mean, that really wasn't a very smart move on her part, on the writer's part. All right, do you have a minute? Can you stay on with us? Because right now we actually have someone else on the phone. He's a military expert, and he's an author, and he wrote the book Day of Wrath. William, can you please pronounce your last name for me?
Hi, it's Bill Forstchen.
Bill Forster, thank you very much for being on with us. And John, do you have a minute to stay? Because I know you have to get ready for your own show.
Yeah, just a minute, and I got to run on.
Okay. Can you tell us, Bill, thanks for joining the show, actually. This is such a pivotal election. It's so important who ends up in office, at this time with what's going on. You wrote this book. I think you've written over 50 novels. Isn't that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Day of Wrath. Why did you write it? What's it about? And it's sort of, I'm told, a bit almost like a textbook on how we should be fighting terrorism and ISIS and all that. Can you tell us a little bit about the book?
Yeah, I just want to throw 20 seconds in on your other guest's comments.
Please.
To how that speech got messed up. I mean, I'm a professor of history, and when I'm doing research, say somebody else's speech, if I copy something down verbatim, I have to footnote it. So I will make very certain when I'm taking notes that I clarify, is it my writing or is it somebody else's? The speechwriter screwed up, and
Absolutely.
Unfortunately Trump's life is taking heat because the speechwriter didn't properly footnote or notate that it was a verbatim transition. But I just want to throw that in from a historian's perspective. I wrote Day of Wrath, to answer your question, 2 years ago. Back on June 28th, 2 years ago, when news was finally coming out of purported executions, as Fox News and others were claiming, of ISIS. I'm a researcher. I went in. I looked at the original videos that ISIS was putting out. These were not purported executions. They were mass murder. My reaction as well was triggered by our president declaring that ISIS was the JV team and that he didn't have a strategy. So Day of Wrath presents, it's a novel, but it's based on what is called the Beslan scenario. Beslan, your listeners can pull it up on Wikipedia, where Islamic terrorists seized Russia and they murdered over 300 children. I fear the same thing is coming here. That's why I wrote the book.
Okay, and you're saying the way to go about and fight this. I mean, I have my own opinions as well. Everyone's got an opinion on how to do this. But you know what? I'm actually going to tell you. We have so many of these guys under surveillance. I'm never really sure. I don't understand if they're under surveillance why each and every one of them is allowed to leave the house. For example, let's look at Nice and get into an enormous truck why aren't they pulled over? If you're under surveillance, you should be pulled over. They should be combing through that truck, and they shouldn't be allowed to go down the street during a celebration in a truck like that. And 3 known terrorists should also not be allowed to drive over to the airport, without being pulled over. I don't understand. There's a much smarter way to fight this internationally, and we're not. I'm not an expert by any means. I'm not a politician, but it just seems that I know that there's one side that would like to go and obliterate countries that are doing this in the Middle East, but there's so many other ways to fight it, and we're just missing the point. Do you know what I mean? We're letting so much go.
Well, you're really hitting a key point. There's a wonderful paradoxical statement. You can either have freedom or you can have security, but you can't have both. To go to a massive security state means we would essentially have to be a police state if we're checking every single person all the time.
Well, people,
profiling, that's incorrect to many people.
No, but those that are under surveillance. For example, I'm not under surveillance, so
Yeah.
I'm pretty much free to get into that truck and just drive into the middle of a party going on in Nice. But for somebody who is under surveillance, I'm just saying there should be something. We have to do something else. We're in a war. And it doesn't look like World War II or the Korean War or the Vietnam War, but we are in a war. And as soon as people realize that, we have to just get smarter at the way that we're doing this. And it seems like the people that we have under surveillance are just roaming around, and then they're under surveillance, and then that's it. We lose track of them.
Yeah, you hit it exactly. We are at war. Now, let's look at the murderer, and I don't like to call them shooters. They're murderers. They're mass murderers. The one in Orlando. Twice went up on the FBI's radar. Twice went off. And in the weeks prior to the event, 2 different gun store owners call the FBI and say, this guy is creepy. We're concerned about him. Please check him out. And yet, fully armed, he walked into that nightclub several weeks later.
This is
Too many
my
people are falling through the cracks.
Right, but this is my point. Yet you have one side politically who wants to go in, I believe, and they believe in mass force. I believe that you really there's a smarter way to fight this, and I don't understand why why this guy was brought before the attention of the FBI and then he was let go. That's just unconscionable to me. So what are we doing wrong that there's this disconnect? Okay, they've got the information, and then there's a disconnect. I don't get it.
Well, for one, I'm in favor of profiling better.
Mm-hmm.
When we see people fitting certain profiles, it's become politically incorrect to single them out for additional study and survey.
Mm-hmm.
We all experience this going through airports, seeing who's that person they're pulling over versus some other people that we maybe should be doing a double check on.
I get pulled over all the time. I'm sure I look terribly dangerous,
So do I.
but all the time. I really do. I mean, I've had my shoes taken off, and I've looked at guys right behind me who look really dangerous to me, and off they go, and I'm sitting there when my kids are 2 and 4 years old, their shoes are coming off, and we're being, packed down, and I'm thinking, have at it. But, if they want to do it to me, they should do it to the next guy. I have no problem. If for some reason they want to do it to me, I just think we're all in a different time right now. So everyone needs to relax and understand that I don't necessarily believe in profiling all the time, but if there's a danger out there and you're under surveillance, at least get pulled over, right?
You're stuck with a historian here. During World War II, we had 7,000 people in the FBI, and we maintained almost airtight security inside the United States across 4 years of war. And there was, remember, advertising campaigns at that time of loose lips sink ships, and if something looked suspicious, report it. All of America was on board with that.
Yeah, but guess
We're not
what?
doing that today.
Oh, yes, we are.
It's
People are
incorrect.
No, people are reporting things, but then something's getting lost in translation.
It's
Somewhere
correct.
along the line, people are just not responding to it. You just said yourself that the FBI had information about this guy when he went to 2 different gun stores, and then they dropped the ball, and look what happened in Orlando. So that's what I mean. Go ahead.
I have great empathy for the personnel in the FBI, and a lot of times their hands are shackled by different procedures, rulings, and everything else. A lot of good people in the FBI who are pulling their hair out while this is going on. It's easy to point and say, boy, the FBI screwed up in Orlando. But I bet there was a lot of darn good personnel there saying, my God, how did this happen? How did it get past this? We have to rethink our procedures on that.
John, go ahead.
How to defend primary targets like schools, etc. We got to you hit it. We're at war. When are we going to wake up to it? It's a different kind of war than World War II or Korea or Vietnam.
John, are you on
now
the
taking place on our home soil.
I'm talking to my previous guest, John Kobylt. Are you still on the phone, or did you have to go? He dropped out. Yeah, he's got a show that he's got to prepare for in Ohio. I'm actually going to put on my other 2 guests who are in studio right now, and Jim and Mara, how are you? Please introduce yourselves. They are specialists. Jim Berkeley and Mara, please say your last name for me.
Papatheodorou.
There you go. That's why I had her do it and not me.
I had to marry the girl with the last name, right?
Well, if she took your name, then
Yeah.
she, it's easier. What can I say?
We're not going to hyphenate it.
No, that would be
I
very
have
difficult.
the whole alphabet then.
That
Literally.
would be very difficult. They're here because they specialize in international travel. And I know a lot of people, I'm about to go out of the country, but I'm going into Asia. But I know a lot of people who are really concerned about traveling right now. So as a security expert and an author and someone who studies this and a military expert, what would you say to people who are concerned about travel right now? What should they do? Obviously, you have to be alert and look around and report stuff. But let's go a little further. Should people still be going out of the country? Are there places they should avoid? What do you think? Hello? Jim?
Well,
Bill,
I'll take the ball first. Absolutely,
Yeah.
yes. We have to continue living our lives, but the term is situationally aware.
Mm-hmm.
People got to learn to be a lot more aware of their environment and potential situations. And as I drill into my daughter all the time, eyeball wherever you're going. How do you exit if need be? Don't be living in paranoia, but become more situationally aware. And if you see something that doesn't feel right, react. Don't sit back and say somebody else will do it.
Well, let me ask you this. What do we need to do to fight this? Because as you're saying, it's going to be on our soil more often, and I don't even want to think that way. But what can we do? What can the government do? What can governments around the world do that we are allied with do better? And let's face it, we got to do a lot
I'm
better.
going to start on home soil with something very controversial, and that is I believe that well-trained, let me specify, not any Joe Schmo, well-trained teachers, particularly ex-military, ex-law enforcement, working coordination with their local and county and state police should be in schools. They might not be able to stop an attack, but they could certainly slow it down. Secondly, I'm one of the people who wants a more robust foreign policy. I want a clear communication back to ISIS. We're not on the defense. We're going to go on the offense every way possible.
So what does that
ISIS
mean?
is metastasizing.
What does that mean? What are you suggesting?
It's going to be a tough one because we're a war-weary nation, but we might very well have to put boots on the ground before this is done.
Right. Well, that's why this is such a pivotal election. That's why this is so important, because each side feels very differently. And there's so many people who are confused because so many people don't know who to stand behind because the situation is changing so much out there. But what about our allies? What about forming an alliance, a better alliance with our allies?
France is the one that has suffered the most.
Mm-hmm.
And Gunther Smith's the French military or the French intelligence system. Of course, England has been our staunch ally for 100 years. NATO might be tottering on the edge right now because of what happened in Turkey.
Mm-hmm.
But we have to reaffirm staunch alliances. Let me give you the example that upset me the most. What happened in Nigeria 2 years ago? Kidnapping of all those innocent girls. And what do some people do? They hold up a sign with a hashtag, let the girls go. That doesn't amount to blank. I would like to have seen a couple of hundred of our top military experts, SEAL types, who would have volunteered for it. Nigeria, we're going to stand with you and we're going to help you get those girls back no matter what. That's the type of proactive
So you're
foreign
suggesting,
policy
you're suggesting what? We should have...
We should have militarily helped Nigeria try and get those girls back who are still in sexual slavery.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Any other thoughts before we let you go?
You hit it. We're at war. And it's a very different war than previous wars, but we are at war. And I want to see a very clear debate between the two top candidates.
Well, we're going to get that. I have
how they resolve that.
I have to tell you, I can't wait to hear the debates. I mean, these conventions, whatever, it's for a lot of people to get together and have a good time and go
that's
there.
grandstanding.
Of course it is. Grandstanding on both sides. But once they get to debating, I look forward to hearing what each side has to say, because I think each side has a very different point of view. Anyway, thank you very much for joining us. Can you give us a shout out to your website if people want to get in touch with you?
The one related to ISIS is called Day of Wrath Book. It's all one word, dayofwrathbook.com.
Okay.
And that's the way to find out about that, or my other book, 1 Second After, which is about the threat of the EMP attack.
1 second after. Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll be in touch, okay? Thank you.
Thank you. Pleasure. Bye
Okay,
now.
bye-bye. That was very interesting.
I liked him.
Yeah, I did too.
Yeah.
Especially like John. But I did too. No, but this brings up, and I met the two of you through a very, very, very dear mutual friend. And we travel everywhere, not nearly the way you do, because this is what you do for a living. Can you just both sort of briefly tell us what you do?
So my company, Destinations and Adventures International, is a boutique wholesale operator that custom designs private trips for people all over the world. So as an example, you and your family of 5, I believe it is, you might want to go to Africa or Namibia, or Southeast Asia.
So you'll put it together in about a day, which is what you did for me.
About a day. That's
I called
right.
this poor man, and he had no idea what he was getting into. But I will tell you, a dear friend, I said, no, I don't know if I really want to plan with him. He has no idea what he's in for. Now you know.
That's true.
No, now you know. I may go down as one of his most difficult clients because we're a family of 5. Sorry to interrupt you, but I just had to. Who all of us have different ideas on what we want to do. I mean, clearly, one wants to go, one doesn't want to go. One wants artifacts, one wants to go climbing. And I thought, oh my God, how do I put this together? One wants to go home early for his sports. And putting together a trip like this is not easy, however you deliver it. So thank you. I need to thank you.
Well, I look at working with you as sort of a sport.
It was a sport for sure. It's a good thing we don't carry guns around, because that would I think you would have come to my front door and I wouldn't have blamed you. So thank you for putting that together for us.
No, it was a pleasure, really.
Yeah. So go ahead. So you do specialty travel for people.
Specialty travel, custom designed all over the world. I've been doing this a very long time now. I'm an ex-person from Abercrombie and Kent. I'm sure you know that company. Mm-hmm. And so we are a boutique version of what Abercrombie and Kent is. We outdo what they used to do well.
You absolutely clearly do. And you spent a lot of time in Africa. I know that you're very interested in Egypt.
Correct.
You love
I lived
Egypt.
there for 5 years.
Yeah. So
fantastic.
I wish I had known that when I went there. But one day I'm going to get back there.
You're talking to a guy that is
there
not...
There you are in Egypt. There we go.
There we go. You're talking to a guy that is not daunted by these terrible events that are happening around the world. I agree totally with your previous guest, Bill. We've got to get on with our lives. We cannot be intimidated by these creeps that are trying to affect our lives and put fear in our minds.
Well, let me ask you this. Is there some place, for whatever reason, that you truly would avoid right now?
Yes.
Where?
I would not send people to Yemen right now.
Okay. I was going to ask you if we could go there, so I guess not.
Yeah, not right now. There are places that I think the wise person just doesn't need to go to. But as an example, I have a client that recently went to Southeast Asia, and he didn't want to go to Bali. And I really disagreed with him on that because, sure, there's a Muslim population in Bali, but you can't run scared because there's a Muslim population somewhere.
That's where I think the media is doing a disservice. And that's also where I think that people are a little ignorant out there because they read the horror stories of what the media decides to put out there. It's not necessarily true, but what the media is saying, and then people are running scared. And I agree with you. Bali is a fairly peaceful place.
Deborah,
I can't even believe that.
Deborah, listen to this as an example. This year, just looked at it today. Up until today, 358 people have been shot and killed in Chicago. Would you stop going to Chicago? No. There haven't been 358 people killed in Cairo, in Tokyo, in Paris, anywhere. And 50.
That's tremendous. I didn't know that.
Yeah. So, when people have to keep, the fear in perspective when they get worried and hear these media reports. And I totally agree with you. The media drums it up because it makes good news.
I know. I work in it, and I'm one of those people who would stand out and do the news every night in my live shot with, your random shooting, which is awful. But it's made out to be, in a way, bigger than it really is, or your car chase or whatever. And then people think, oh, my God, I have to stay off the freeways. I can't go into that neighborhood. I'm going to get shot. In which case, it's an isolated incident. So people need to know that.
And people need to be smart as well. I spend a lot of time talking to people who ask, Jim, is it going to be safe for me to take my family? And I say, listen, there are a couple things you need to remember. You're going into a foreign country, and depending on what that country is, be respectful of their mores. If they're a culture that's conservative, don't be wearing your short shorts and your tight tops and drawing attention to yourself.
Stop. I was on a walk today with my friend. Remember I told you the one who's from Thailand?
Yes.
And I said to her, can I wear these shorts? Because they were my workout shorts, the little running shorts. And she said, no, you can't wear that.
Well, there you go.
Is that true, by the way, when I go to Thailand? I mean, I thought as a tourist.
You need to be respectful of these cultures. And just because we do that here in Brentwood or Los Angeles or wherever it is in the USA doesn't mean you should be doing it abroad.
Somebody's calling me about my wardrobe over when I get on my vacation. But so that's a good point. You do need to be respectful. You don't want to stand out. When we were somewhere where we were visiting a mosque, I don't recall where we were. It was a few years back. I had a reasonably normal dress on, but they ran over to me and they covered me.
Your arms were exposed.
Yeah, my arms. I mean, they really,
That's right.
covered me up. And even to go into the Vatican some years back, many years back, I had my shoulders
correct.
exposed, and they gave me a scarf, and I was okay with that. I didn't realize I couldn't go in and have my shoulders exposed, but you have to. You're right. You have to be respectful of the other person's culture.
And the second thing people need to remember is you don't need to advertise that you're an American. Take your New York Yankees baseball hat off and don't, flip it around backwards. Take it off. You don't need to look like a local, but be smart about what you're wearing.
Okay, wait a minute. My youngest kid and my husband are going to
Yep.
be wearing their Mets hats. I just cannot. There's no way. I'm going to let you know now. I can't avoid that one. So what do I do in a case
Well,
like that? I'm not going anywhere that's particularly in question.
No, you're
actually.
not. You're not. And listen, sometimes you got to give in. I'm just giving generalities, right? We send a lot of people all over the world. Middle East, Morocco, Turkey, not so much this year, of course.
So would you stay out of Turkey? If you had a planned trip or you had a family going to Turkey, would you say, let's reroute you?
Up until the failed coup, I would have said yes. Now that they've had a coup and that society is in now some serious turmoil, I would think that's
Really?
I would give that one a ret. Push that one down on your bucket list till next year.
That's
But
too
as
bad,
an example,
though.
people talking about the Middle East. I lived in Cairo for 5 years. Cairo is really starting to come back, or Egypt is starting to come back now. And people are realizing it's a good time to go for two reasons. Prices are low, and it's not crowded.
Yeah, I would go to Cairo
Of
right now.
course you
I
would.
was there, I think, about 4 or 5 weeks with the family. I should have brought my Egypt pictures. See, we got his, and we didn't. I forgot
There
to
you
bring
go.
mine. You got to remind me next time, Kurt. But I was there about 4 or 5 weeks before the unrest.
Before the Arab Spring,
Yeah.
for the revolution.
Yeah, so it's funny when you're in a place, you can almost feel tension bubbling and boiling. I mean, maybe it's just always like that, but I felt a real tension there. But could have just been a coincidence.
Could be Monday morning quarterback.
It could have been. And I know that you do, Mara, you do quite a bit of work, but you have really an interesting take on the kind of travel that you do. You
Yes.
sort of combine this with food.
I'm a traveler with a food perspective.
I love
so I
that.
travel with my palate, and really tastes and traditions are what intrigue me and sort of allure me to the country, because I think you're talking about culture and tourism, and that's absolutely part of it, because part of the fulfilling experience is time around the table.
Yeah.
Or really getting into a culture. The combination of the culture and cuisine is really a magical part of the trip, because that's something that you're not going to get anywhere else right there and then, whatever the flavors are. And, there are 1,000 different ways to interpret one flavor, and every country does it differently depending on what grows there and what they can do with it.
It almost seems like it would be something that would bring people together, all those people that can't stand each other. It's like, oh, I like what you're making. You know what I mean?
I think,
Could
I
that be
think,
it? Could it come down to something as simple as that? I like
it
what
really
you're cooking.
it can, and I tell you why. There's two things. Some people eat to live, other people live to eat. People have great joy in the kitchen. Some people don't really want to spend time in the kitchen. But one way or another, food unites us all. It's the
Yeah.
only language anywhere where a conversation that you don't need words. It's expression. It's yuck or yum or wow or whoa. It's something that crosses borders, crosses nationalities, and I think it makes your heart sing. It really does. Whether you are passionate about it or pleasantly surprised.
So do you lecture about foods, or do you cook pretty much everything?
No, I'm.
Now, you're Greek. I know that.
I'm
Just
half
G
Greek.
by her
Well,
name alone.
Interesting combination. I'm half Greek and half Irish, and the Irish.
I could see the Irish
right,
in you
right,
for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not really,
Well,
but-
your kid for sure.
Yeah, my
right?
kid for
He is
sure.
about
He's-
as blonde and fair as I
Yeah.
could imagine.
Well, I've got an
so-
Irish mom with
Yeah.
red hair and blue eyes, so
Yeah.
it tunneled through.
How beautiful.
I do cook, and I love to cook, but I do lecture because, again, I really feel that the tastes and traditions of a place bring it alive for you. And, again, you don't have to be obsessed or a big cook yourself or only want to see what they serve or have a big restaurant experience. The tastes and traditions are as much a part of the pulse of the country as the culture and the artifacts, because really people and culture come together by what's provided for them. What are they going to do with it? So I talk about the history and why one ingredient is interpreted in so many different ways depending on what part of the world it's in.
Now, when people travel and they want to really taste the tradition, very often, I don't know, they'll just go to the restaurants that are right near a hotel or whatever. What do you like to tell people to really find some really terrific food restaurants, whatever?
Well, there's lots of ways to address it. I mean, depending on what part of the world you're in, street food or island food. In the Mediterranean, it's always going to be fresh and vibrant because of the ingredients there. Lemons and olive oil. Again, somewhere like Greece versus Spain, believe it or not, the olive oil is very different, and they eat
it's like
this.
a wine in a way.
Well, exactly, and they tapas are considered the Spanish hors d'oeuvre, whereas in Greece it's meze. So it's the same thing, but it's interpreted differently. So hotels, I don't think you're going to get that real experience.
No.
So I always say wander around or do a little bit of homework. I guide a lot of people with Jim's company. We'll do special lists of, knowing what you like to eat versus what you don't like to eat. Or my hope is always to sort of allure you into trying or explaining what you should look out for. And when I do lectures, particularly if I do some lectures on cruise ships, to really kind of guide people when they're in port to look out for that one thing and just to taste it or enjoy it or at least say, well, I tried it, I didn't like it, or I tried it and wow, I want to have that.
That is so fun because I know that you do that on cruise ships. I mean, what a job. Now, how did you two meet? Did you meet somewhere traveling, tasting food or
no,
something?
but we met at a network business lunch, but at the same time, I think one of the things when we met, I mean, Jim's an incredible traveler, and I was a travel editor. I was at Bon Appetit magazine for almost 11 years and really focused on the tastes and traditions of places when we did our international issues. And although I am half Greek and I'm very lucky, having a foreign parent, we traveled a lot. My mother's not a cook, but was very open to traveling too. And so that interest was there. And then at Bon Appetit, I was really given the opportunity to do that.
Your mother's Greek and she was not
No,
a
my
cook.
mother's
Hang on.
Irish.
She's the Irish
She
one.
doesn't cook.
Because I'm full-blooded Italian and
Yeah.
I'm not a cook. And
Right.
somewhere along the line, it just sort of skipped right over me. It's around me, over me. And
But you still can like to eat, right?
But I love to
Yeah.
eat.
Talking about how we met. So here I am, the international traveler, but I was hungry. So I finally met Mara.
That's sort of how it sort of happened. Yeah. Well, and we do some trips together, but we also, when Jim's clients come and they want, one of the custom design elements is really to let them know we might know a little something more, and we want to make sure you have nothing but a memorable experience. And I really say, that mouth-watering moment creates as much a memory as that visual that you see wherever you're traveling. That wow.
You got to roll them all into one.
I do.
It becomes a fabulous
I
experience.
love that. Now, do you cook sometimes when you do your lectures, or do you
I do. I do two things. One, because of my culinary background, especially at Bon Appetit and elsewhere, and on the cruise ships, I will work with the chef because we can talk like two old ladies and men and kind of, oh wow, you're doing that. But I'm sort of the real person connection to the chef because as aware as they are and as much as they love their patrons and people that come to the restaurants, they forget that we only have one, peeler in our kitchen or one knife. So I'm kind of that human connection, but because I know how to cook the way they do, I'm not going to say I do it as well as they do or as often, but we can have that connection of they're the expert and I'm an expert with a real touch. I hope.
I'm a real multitasker.
Right.
But cooking is where I get lost because, you have to sort of make sure that you get this in the oven and that's not burning and you put the olive oil over there. And I mean, my family has even bought me, the timer to put around your neck and I'll put it on.
It happens.
No. But I'll walk away saying, I got the timer on, I'll remember. And it'll go off. I'll be somewhere upstairs. I turn it off. And next thing I know, I hear the fire alarm going. I just can't get it together. Like I can't manage to sort of cook where everything. I hear somebody laughing in the next room. I'm absolutely convinced that they're like, yeah, that's her. And so you come to my house to dinner, bring the food.
Okay.
Or I'll
absolutely.
be ordering it in. Honest
No, I'll
to
bring
God.
my Mara.
Bring your Mara.
No, but it's funny because I do that a lot with
Do you
entertaining.
Really? It's so distracting to me.
Well, no, and I do a lot of entertaining lectures, and I always say never entertain with something you've never cooked before, but keep it easy because the point is, in talking about today with the world, I really believe, hand on heart, that the world becomes a smaller place around the table.
It does.
And that's very much with family and friends. So do takeout, do potluck. If you want to do something that's become your passion, whether it's a wonderful stew or a great lemon meringue pie, absolutely. But, don't let yourself get intimidated. And I always say start with the easy and have 1-star dish, but the rest of it, otherwise you'll go crazy. And the timing, that's so normal. Ask Jim. I think I'm a great cook, but I wouldn't say I'm a neat cook.
You're a terrific
and
cook.
I'm very focused on it, but I'm also all over the place. So I get it.
Yeah, but it was fun. It reminds me of being in my mom's kitchen when I was at your home. It was amazing. amazing
Well,
because
thank you.
it was a happy kitchen.
It's a
you know,
happy
because you know
kitchen,
why
yeah.
else too? Because you knew what you were doing.
Oh,
you know,
thank you.
if you come in my kitchen and I'm just a little bit, and I've got somebody else on the other line saying, "When could you bring it here?"
Yeah. Well, the only
and I have. Let me tell you, I have done that. I swear to God. And I got the boxes and I'm shoving them in the garbage so that nobody would know because I had to put on an impressive dinner.
Right.
I mean,
And I bet
really.
it was good and they loved it. So there you go. Right?
And, yeah.
Cheese plates are really good. Cheese plates always save the day. Because,
Cheese plates?
Yeah, because you order cheese, you bring in a beautiful cheese.
You mean like your
plate.
appetizer?
Yeah, always.
Yeah, but you got to do dinner and
You do have
dessert
to
and
do
all
dinner,
that too.
salad,
You know
yeah.
what I mean? Cheese plates are easy.
I always say, too, though, if you've cooked and it's burned, it's just a phone call away. Pizza.
Yeah,
So,
I got that down. So, all right. So, getting back to the travel, are you getting calls from people saying, "Where should I go next?" Because I'm afraid. I mean, I have friends of mine who are concerned about going to Europe.
All the time.
I mean, okay, you know that we're trying to get my kid back to Boston from Bangkok.
Yes.
And he had a super tight changeover in London. Of course, London's fine, perfectly fine, but it was so tight. It was an hour and 20 minutes. And based on...
Too tight.
First of all, it's too tight. I can't even believe they have it. But second of all, based on what's going on over there, who the heck knows? You can't even... First of all, you can't even get from one side of Heathrow to the other in that amount of time. But also, you got to be careful. You know, if they're going to put you on a flight with a short little... window.
transition, yeah.
Do something else, right? I mean, you got to be...
You know, a legal connection is 55 minutes, but that's ridiculous when you've got to transit, Charles de Gaulle or Heathrow. So you've just got to use some common sense.
Yeah.
And sometimes people don't think anymore. They need to get their brain back on and think about, can I really make that transition and go through security again and make that flight? The answer is no. 2 hours.
And I think, Jim's very aware of that, too. And as you were saying earlier, Deborah, I think, and Bill referred to it, security is part of the travel experience today, and there's no point in getting beyond stressed because the itinerary time isn't going to work. So you have to be respectful of they're doing their job, and it's part of being alert and aware. And I yes, oh gosh, I got to take an extra hour, but don't you feel better on the other side having taken the extra hour?
We've done that, and we've gone into like one of those yotels,
Yeah.
in the middle of the airport, and we actually found it to be hilarious. We didn't even realize those things existed until I think we were in the Netherlands. I don't remember where we were, and we got stuck. We missed a changeover, and we just went to a yotel. There's so much you can do sitting around in an airport. Find a yotel, roam around, buy gifts, whatever.
Right, exactly.
But
Plan your
you're
next
safe.
Trip. Plan your next trip.
yeah, right. Plan the next trip, and I already know what that is. It's Australia, by the way. Just letting
there
you
you
know.
go,
So now you're prepared for me. Poor thing. But and I know how I'm going to do it too. I'm sending one of them home very early, so I'm actually going to do that this time. So, what about those friends of mine really who are concerned about going to Europe? I was telling them on the phone, don't be worried. Get over there and show your strength. We can't just shut down.
There are a couple of things. You can't. Fear is subjective. And when somebody comes to me and says, listen, I'm really worried about going, I never really try to convince them because I can't forget that it's their holiday. And if they're going on that holiday and all they're doing is looking behind their bells, that's
It's
not a
not gonna
holiday.
work, yeah.
So, I try to be logical with them and talk about the Chicago incident, or maybe, 55 people were killed last year from lightning. That's more than in London. So you have to sort of keep a perspective about it. And if you can get them away from the fear and into the rational realm of what's really important, which is going and getting that experience.
What's popular now?
That's always the best question. It sort of depends where you are on your travel bucket list. If you've never traveled anywhere, maybe you need to go to London and Paris. If you've been everywhere around the world, maybe you need to go to Bhutan or Namibia or Zambia or, some of the more unusual destinations. So everybody's sort of at a different place on their travel stage.
I think people they're asking me a lot about Northern European food, which is always a surprise because, you're always, people ask about Italy or Greece and the Mediterranean, which I talk about often, but actually the really pleasant surprise to me is that travelers and audiences that I talk to want to know about Netherlands, Norway, Sweden, which are so beautiful and have amazing cuisine. It's just in a different interpretation from the Mediterranean. So I'm finding interest in Northern Europe a lot.
And Iceland is, of course,
Yeah.
people
That's
a lot
suddenly
of talk about Iceland.
Why? Why is it suddenly on everyone's bucket list?
Because it's been off everyone's bucket list
Right.
forever.
It
all
now
of a sudden-
seems doable, right? Yeah.
The only thing I'll say about Iceland is take your checkbook and make sure it's your big checkbook.
Yeah, it's expensive.
It's expensive.
Well, I can imagine so, right?
It's expensive.
What about, Antarctica? That's the one that my kids really want to do. And then just crossing the Strait scares the shit out of me, honestly. It really makes me nervous because I have friends who did that, and they really were strapped down at night because the currents were so nasty.
You just have to get in your bed and sleep through it.
Yeah, I had trouble in the Galapagos. I found so many evenings to be just so, the seas were so rough.
They're rolling. The Pacific is rolling seas. People don't realize that. When you get on your little catamaran in the Galapagos, sounds like it's going to be fun. You're not going to feel very well.
Yeah.
People should use a larger ship.
But they don't have that many large ships in the Galapagos. Crystal has one with 100 people now.
But that's what I mean. One of the ones that are 50 or 60 passengers, not 16.
Yeah, we were on one, I think, with 24. And I felt it. And, as the week went on, it got a little bit better. But that was difficult. So you're right. You have to, and that's why you have to go to a travel expert.
No, and you also bring up South America. South America right now is particularly hot.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's Argentina, Chile, Peru, Ecuador. Don't forget, nothing is really going on in South America except go down there and have a good time. Colombia.
I love South America.
And Colombia. Medellin. Let's go to Medellin. Who would have gone to Medellin 10 years ago?
I want to go there. My son wants to go there. The one who just got back from Bolivia. He wants to go there next year.
Well, Argentina, too, is huge on the food front. The Malbecs coming out of the wine countries, I mean, they really rival anywhere. So Jim's right. Argentina's huge on the food front, too, with the flavors and lots of meat, but lots of interesting sauces and spices.
Oh,
good,
wonderful.
Yeah.
Oh, that's wonderful. Yeah, I that's actually a good place, too, to think about. And yeah, but in terms of getting back, circling back to what's going on in the world, basically almost anywhere except for Yemen, you would say people can go to. You're okay going to Europe, clearly where we're going to, Vietnam, Thailand, Cambodia, which has been a real dream of mine. I'm excited about going.
Oh, you're going to love
And the
that
people
trip.
are so friendly.
Yeah, and you
so
really
friendly.
put together something incredible for us.
Well, thank you very much.
And
wonderful.
What's exciting quickly there is all the food because it's so fresh and the people just are so excited to share it. They really are.
Yeah. So what about, I'm trying to, where are you going next?
So let's see. Our next trip, we're off to the Mediterranean in 1st of August.
Where though?
We're going to Greece and
Mara's hosting one of her culinary cruises.
And Croatia. Croatia is really a hot, wonderful destination for Mediterranean. It's beautiful and the food is a very interesting combination of Italian and former Yugoslavia, and then finishing up in romantic Venice.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah, so
and I know, and you're both going together on this.
We're going, and I'm lecturing.
When is that?
It is August 5th to 12th, leaving Athens and sailing through Croatia and on to Italy. So.
I would love to do one of your cruises. What's another one? I know you mentioned another one.
But one of the destinations, Jim's touched on Africa, but Cape Town is buzzing. And we were just in Africa in May. So I'm going to be doing a taste of South Africa, a taste of Cape. We're going around the Cape in February. February 17th, right? February 17th.
That's it.
That's something I'd be interested in to do with some
2017.
friends.
2017, and lots of wine and good food.
You're right. That was just
Cape Malay. Great food.
Cape Town. They just had an article on Cape Town. The front, the cover of Virtuoso magazine, I think, had that. I read about.
When I do some blogging for National Geographic Traveler.
Oh, you do?
And a feature called Sights and Bites, and I did a lot in Cape Town. A lot is happening.
Oh,
it's really,
I'm going to look for that because I
it's-
have Nat Geo
yeah,
Traveler.
yeah,
I
yeah.
love it. Is it in the magazine or online?
The one in the magazine that I just recently ran was on Tokyo in Japan, and I think Cape Town may end up in the magazine, but they have a regular Sights and Bites blog on their National Geographic Traveler.
Very briefly,
.com.
Anyone can really travel. I know it's expensive. I know that. But for somebody really on a budget, what's a good place to go? First, if they're a couple or they have a family, what would you say?
Here are the tips on less expensive travel. Number one, go off season. Don't try to go on season.
Okay.
So go to Europe, let's say in the winter months. Nothing wrong with November, March, April.
Right,
Those
it's
are
like going to New York, right?
That's right.
Sort of.
Yeah.
Also, another very inexpensive destination these days is Egypt because rates have not come up from the revolution. And to be frank with you, it's perfectly safe.
I agree with you.
And then after that, Thailand is really can be very cost effective choosing the right properties. Any destination can be expensive or inexpensive. It's about where you select to want to stay.
Oh, I'm so excited about this. Okay, now where can folks find you guys if they want to look you up?
My company, Destinations and Adventures International, DAItravel.com. Come see us.
DAI Travel, and how about you?
And I'm at Marapapa, MARAPAPA.com.
So you didn't spell out your whole name for your
No,
website.
but it's there.
I know.
Master foodie, Mara Papatheodorou.
I know.
That's what
I
it
was looking at your website. I was calling it up earlier. I'm like, that's a good thing because nobody can spell my husband's last name either.
Right.
Kobylt isn't so easy.
Right.
And my last name, born with Zara, Z-A-R-A. Interestingly enough, nobody can figure that one out
No, I
either.
know.
It's very difficult.
I have that with my first name because my parents were nice
Mara.
enough to give me short, but I get 5-7 letters, but people make a joke out of it. But it's my name, so there it is.
And that's where
Yeah.
we can find you. Okay, thanks so much for coming in.
Thank you,
Thank you
Deborah.
for
Thank
having
you so
us.
much. And thanks for another fun edition of What's Up with Kobylt and Friends. And we will be back with you next week. Bye-bye.